Hi everyone, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report, not only for this week, March 31st through April 6th, but also the month of April. And just a little quick business first. The Astrological Winds channel is a free video blog that's on YouTube every week. If you are a YouTube person, have an account, I'd love you to become a follower. Don't forget to turn your notifications on so you know when the blog is posted. And since it is a free service, what I ask is that people please pass the link along every week to somebody, or anytime you watch it, to somebody else who you think might like to see it too. And if you've already done that, please do it again. I really appreciate that. It's the way I get my blog to grow, is just really word of mouth. Remember also, it's available on podcasts too if you want to just hear an audio version of it, and that frees you up to do other things. Just look up Astrological Winds channel on your favorite podcasts out there. You should be able to find it on one of them. Also has an Instagram page, the Astrological Winds channel, and I post the link every week on that. So if you want to find the link on your newsreel, just become a follower there. Also, it is posted on my website, www.astrologicalwinds.com. That also has the blogs from the past few months on it. If you need to refer back to a monthly or even the annual one, they're available there. I also do a little calendar page that also has all my professional services listed in. If you ever need a chart done, I have been doing charts professionally for over 20 years and was trained for 7 years. So look at all the details. If you're a group, or if you're looking, or a student, you're looking for classes or a group type of event, please check the website out. I'll have some more details on that at the end of the blog. So, all right, let's get into this. Now, remember, if you don't know astrology well, don't get lost on the terms. You want to listen to my interpretations. That's the energy we're going to be working with this month and this week. And also, if remember, your own chart also affects this stuff. So it's not just, pure thing. We're going to see this play out in society, and you'll see it play out in your life too. And if you're open to the many different ways the energy can manifest, you will see it manifest in many ways in your life. So what I want to do, I want to do the April one first, because there's not a real lot going on this week. Actually, it's that third week of the 3 bottom weeks that I told you guys for a couple months. We're going to really bottom out the last 2 weeks of March, the first week of April, when Mercury and Venus were retrograde at the same time in the Aries Pisces zone. So there's not a lot of big aspects going on the week of the 31st through the 6th, but the biggest aspect that is going on is actually the biggest aspect of the month too. So that's why I wanted to start with the monthly, because that aspect is exact on Friday, and that is Saturn sextiling Uranus. And not only is that exact on Friday, but that's also the day that Mars will actually trine Saturn and sextile Uranus, which is the biggest thing going on this week also. And I really think, this whole week, we're going to be feeling this energy building up, building up, building up, and then really peak out towards the end of the week. So this is the first hit of Saturn sextile Uranus. I went into a lot of detail in this on the annual blog, because it happens to be really the biggest aspect between the outer planets this year. Although, since 3 of them are changing signs, it wasn't really the biggest energy shift of the year. It is a pretty important aspect. So this is the first exact one. And Saturn is at 25 Pisces, and Uranus is at about 25 Taurus. So this first hit is in the earth signs. Now, like I just said, planets changing signs this year. Big. If you still haven't listened to the annual blog, you need to get back to that and listen to it, because we have Neptune, Uranus, and Saturn all changing signs. So these guys are both going to change signs before they get their second hit together, which is on August 12th. By then, they will both be in the first degree of the next sign, which is Aries for Saturn and Gemini for Uranus. So the second hit on August 12th will be when they're in a different sign. And then the third and final hit will be early next year when they have slid back into Pisces and Taurus again. So this, like I said, this is really a big aspect for this year. And it is a pretty positive one, because what this one does is it makes us recognize we need things need to change, that they can't go on the way they are. And now remember, Saturn is a societal planet, right? And Uranus is one of the three outer planets, the ones that bring transformation in to society and the individuals within society, and seem to have like a higher dharmic or destiny for us that we all have to kind of heed collectively together, right? So Uranus's job is to bring change into the structures of society. And right now, what I think this one is showing is that we're ready for it. Like, we all recognize that changes have to occur. And it doesn't really matter what side of the political spectrum or what societal, cultural spectrum that you're on. That seems to be a common denominator right now, that the structures of society need to change, that they're not doing well, that there's a lot of flaws that can be seen by the Uranus energy, and a lot of new energy that can be injected to try to change those situations, to try to bring new changes to old forms. Now, what's good about this with the sextile is it's a gentler approach. It's not like go in there and shake everything up and throw everything out and toss it all into the fire and burn it, or throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is like, no, I can see where changes could be very beneficial to certain systems and structures and thoughts and beliefs, abstractions and concrete things. But without throwing out the whole form, that means we want to go step by step. So this brings in a nice balance between the two kinds of change. The change that comes from like new things coming in, and the change that comes from the duties that we have to like live up to in order to help those changes come in. So this is like, there's a great balance here. And it gives us the patience. Saturn gives us the patience to bring in these changes in a step-by-step manner, in an approach that doesn't throw everything else out, and so like can bring down some of the tension that's been building up from old ways that have become problematic, and can bring in some new electrical ideas about what needs to change in those forms. And remember, take this down into your own life too. It's like, that those kinds of changes can be happening in the structures of your life. Obviously, when society is going through a lot of changes, it's also affecting the individuals. So this is a time, when you're watching this happen in society and you have a sextile, it's a time to really immerse yourself into what you need to do personally to be prepared for those changes. Like, does that mean brushing up on your techniques? Does that mean getting some advice or wisdom from people who may have some more experience than you? So it's a good time. It makes us very adaptable, this energy. It makes us like have a positive approach to changes, and wanting to nurse them and have them come along, to create new manifestations, to be patient enough to do that. And so this is a time when we can, we have that right attitude, and we really can do that. And then all of a sudden we have Mars, which is what? Our actions, our motivations, our drive, is connecting on Friday in a sextile to Uranus and a trine to Saturn. So all this does is completely fortify this. This shows us it is the time where we can really start taking action on bringing new ideas, new techniques, new insights into the forms that we want to change, into the things that we want to change without completely disrupting our lives. This is a time where we can make new connections with people who many times are outside our normal box. So you want to look for that, for people who are different than you, that you may end up associating with during this time, who can bring in a lot of new insights to you. And this can bring, like, stimulate your creativity and even see the value in what your personal creative energy is. And that can be a very, very satisfying thing. This is a time where we can really, and once we see those changes coming and we've prepared ourselves for it with the Mars energy, we can roll up our sleeves and get at it, and the Saturn brings a lot of endurance too. It brings a lot of patience to this. It gives us the ability to slow it down and take care of the details and the things that need our attention in order to make these new insights be indoctrinated well into our systems and structures to bring in the changes that we want. And so that we can take these steps. So we have a really clear focus on our goals, and they're realistic. And when we start to have success with them, which what this energy will bring, that starts to bring up our confidence. That starts to make us feel like we have strong character, that we can get through hard times, that we can have insights into what we need to do to bring in the changes that we need to do to get through hard times. So I really like this energy for this year and this week in particular on a personal level to really start to go into that energy. And remember, that is a lot of the energy of this year too. Like even, the new administration talks about having to make a lot of changes to the structures and forms. It's just that their approach has, created a lot of backlash. Now, the rest of the month, there's 4 other things going on. Next week, Mercury goes direct on April 7th, which is Monday. And then on Saturday, Venus goes direct. So finally, we will get out of the retrograde motion of these 2 inner planets that have been Venus, going for weeks now. Mercury's been about 2 weeks. Venus has been about, like 5 weeks or so now. So I'll get into more details of them going direct next week because they're 2 of the biggest events of next week. What I want to do is focus on 2 other longer term aspects that happen this month. We have on April 16th, we have our 3rd and final hit of Jupiter sesquiquadrate Pluto. And I did talk about this the first 2 times. It's been going on for 9 months now. And if you'll remember, this brings great frustration and blockage to those who are trying to push their values and philosophies onto others through their own power tripping, through their own power, through their own maneuvers, through their ability to influence. There's a lot of ambition behind this energy for power and for success and for achievements. But there's also a great resistance from others to this energy because of the methods that are being used to try to indoctrinate it, to try to push it. And does that sound like what's been going on in the last 9 months in the US, right from the election, pre-election time, right to everything since then? Those in power trying to push their values and philosophies. And what's that doing? It's creating a great, great resistance. This energy can bring some successes. There's no question about that, but it also can bring an equal amount of failures. And it can bring a lot of conflict, because even if you have no intention in doing so, you're ruffling other people's feathers with the way that you're doing things, the maneuvers you're taking, and in particular, anyone else in power, anyone who has power equal to you or greater in your spheres of influence. And once again, do we see this happening in the United States, that every time the executive branch tries to do something, other people in the other branches of government or the other parties are, feeling this resistance and slowing down those changes, feeling very threatened by those changes. But this is the energy of reformation once again. Jupiter sesquiquadrate Pluto, Jupiter and Pluto together want to reform things. They want to reform structures. They want to reform ideas, abstract things, And so, you can see that trying to go on here in the United States. And once again, everyone agrees that a lot of these things need to change, that they're not doing well, that they're falling apart. But, the approach, it can be very, very intense. There's an obsession to this energy too. And we may not even be right about what we're pushing. It's more based on beliefs than facts, is what it comes down to. So we may be standing on shaky ground. This can be like a time where we may be pushing things that we're not right about, that we're not clear where it's going to end up, but we're kind of just trying to align it with our point of view. And so what can happen is, this is also the energy of hypocrisy, where people can see through what you're saying and how you don't live up to it. And they can call you on it. This is kind of almost like the energy of the emperor wears no clothes. When people are pushing values in a powerful way and not stating facts correctly, and just strong arming things, this can really show up as being very hypocritical. The other thing it can do in the real world too is bring you into a lot of legal conflicts, where people are just like, I'm just going to go right to court and stop you from doing this. Are we seeing this once again in the United States, where a lot of the maneuvers the current executive branch has tried to do has been like brought into courts, and those courts are being the sesquiquadrate. They're throwing that wrench in. They're slowing everything down. They're frustrating everything, And this is an administration so far that really has shown that they're really married to their beliefs and not necessarily a lot of the facts. So, so this is going to continue. This energy is showing that there's going to be continuing great frustration in the changes that we're trying to make, especially if we're trying to coerce them by using power maneuvers, using power trippers. In our sphere of influence, we're going to get equal brushback from people who have that kind of equal power. Okay, and then the last big thing I want to mention is, on April 19th, we have Saturn exactly conjunct the North Node, which is the eclipse point from those last two eclipses too. So this can be another very tough transit, or another major turning point for many people in the world, and for many groups in the world, and for the structures of society. Once again, it's Saturn. And the people who run some of those, the organizations and groups behind a lot of that, this is showing a need for adaptation right now. And the conjunction, things can go either way. What the positive way is to be adaptable to the changing times, to what our destiny is, and to allow changes to occur to the structures of society that are failing, to the structures in our own lives that are failing, to the structures in the groups that we belong to that are failing. But the problem is, it can be very, very difficult to get along with certain people and groups. This is, once again, it's triggering fears in people. And some of the worst fears that we have, like, am I good enough? Do I have enough energy or resources or whatever to get through this? Will I be able to get through this? So like, some of our worst fears can be triggered by these unknowns. And we can kind of feel like, also seeing how our associations with certain people, with certain groups, can be a disadvantage, can drag us into things that are not good for us. and hurt us, actually. So there may be some actually separations that we need to force, or losses that can occur. And even on an individual level, too, this can also mean that separations, losses, even deaths of loved ones. The best way to use this energy is to try to learn from people who have experience, to gain wisdom and get some kind of guidance from them. And even on a personal level, where we can get favors from those who are in authority. It's a time where those in power can back us up in some way. But it's a conjunction, so it can go either way. And the North Node shows this is a destiny point. The eclipse shows it's a destiny point. A lot of people are going through some major changes that are requiring more duties, more obligations, more with dealing with the reality of situations, and not allowing like certain others to dominate us and our viewpoints, and then becoming at a personal disadvantage because of that. So this is a month, that's all about bringing changes in. But if your approach is imbalanced, or if it's about power mongering and forcing people, then it's going to be very difficult to do so. And you're going to meet a lot of resistance, you know. And some of us may have to decide who we're going to associate with, based on what those persons or groups' approaches are. And we have to use the insights that we're having now. We have to have a more balanced and structured way of change if we really want to bring it in successfully. We all can see that change is required right now, but we don't have to destroy things. We don't have to shut things down completely in order to do that. What we need to do with this energy is to take a step by step, balanced, maintain your discipline approach. And even if society and groups in society are not doing that, then you need to disassociate yourself individually from those who would drag you down on a personal level, and do that yourself, for yourself, right? Make those changes yourself. Do the step by step plans and disciplined actions that you need to take based on the insights that you have. Save yourself first. In fact, you know what? You want to save the world? Save yourself. That's all you need to do to change the world, is to change yourself. Okay? Oh, many wise men have said that, and women. So let's go back to the weekly now. And I did mention, Friday is the big thing this week, with Mars hitting the Saturn Uranus trine. So that obviously is really a big, big thing. But what I want to mention and go back to again is it's the third week of Mercury retrograde with Venus retrograde, now both in Pisces, where Mercury is in particular very weak. And so, I mentioned several times in the last couple months, this was going to be a bottom out time. And I know that a lot of people are suffering, that there's been a lot of intense stuff going on. Not only have we had the retrogrades, but we've also had the two eclipses come in. And so I just wanted to point out some of the stuff in the world that's gone on that's, really, once again, shows us how real astrology's energy can be. So last week, biggest airport in the world, Heathrow Airport, London, had to shut down for over a day because there was a fire in a power substation that was built right next to it specifically for it. Think about this. Mercury retrograde in Aries, a fire sign, sets almost the biggest airport in the world on fire. That actually affected every flight in the world, in case you didn't know. Every flight in the whole world got affected by that. So if you were traveling that week, you got your Mercury retrograde on an airplane. There was no if, and, or but. It literally did. But think about even this. The decision to build a power station right next to an airport, and knowing that they can be inherently dangerous, right? Impulsive decision making, right? Now, Mercury in Aries, retrograde, the impulsive decision of the past comes back to bite you and create the Mercury retrograde moment. So that's one great example. There was another Mercury retrograde too moment that week when there was a huge dust storm that covered a massive part of the Midwest to the point where interstates had to shut down because they could not see in front of them. And there was like actually some really bad, terrible accidents that went on because of that, tragic accidents out on the interstate. So there's some serious, serious energy going on there. And then what did I say the month or two going into the retrograde periods, that the stock market and the economy was likely going to take some serious hits. Well, what's been going on, right? The last week or so, completely crazy crashing of the stock market. And once again, it's based a lot on decisions that were made on that Jupiter Pluto power mongering energy and pushing things that may not be well thought out, and also doing that during the Mars retrograde energy too. So now it's come back when the Venus retrograde, which rules our money and investments and finances, Mercury retrograde, which rules commerce and business, are in both in signs, where they're not comfortable. And all of a sudden, boom, all that stuff comes back, and the stock market and people's confidence in the economy just crashing because ideas weren't thought out. They weren't taken in a step by step approach. It was more like, let's throw an Aries bomb in there and blow the thing up. And that's the results of these things. And then just one other thing, the big earthquake, right? What did I say last week? During the eclipse season, look for massive natural or man-made events that affect thousands, if not millions, of people at the same time, and their whole lives change. So we had this massive earthquake literally on the right before the eclipse new moon day over in Myanmar, which is Burma, old Burma, and Thailand. And I even looked at old Burma's chart. Believe it or not, the rising sign is 10 degrees Sagittarius, which is in a trine to the eclipse and the new moon. And a trine is, it represents energy that's built up and then lets go. So like the energy of the earth building up in tension, and then boom, it lets go, and the trine is where it flows out into an earthquake. So you can see once again a country with a very sensitive point that aspected that new moon eclipse point, being one of the ones that gets majorly affected by it, and all those people. So just some amazing, amazing manifestations in the world of this very intense energy. And believe me, I'm an astrologer. I work with people. I know like a lot of people in their personal lives have suffered separations, losses, deaths, tragedies, economic, nightmares, and things like that in the past few weeks. And I'm telling you guys, like I said before, we've got another week of this kind of bottoming out energy. All right, the last two things I want to mention happened on Sunday, and they're positive, two positive aspects here. The sun is sextile Jupiter, and Venus retrograde is trine Mars. So the sun sextile Jupiter is just one of the luckiest transits there is. People are very positive, optimistic, enthusiastic under this energy. We kind of get lucky breaks, is a good way to say it. We get and give opportunities to others that bring success to us. And so this is a time when we usually want to be with people that we get along with well, which is normally, our friends and family, but it's also great for groups. And it's a great time for any kind of group activity, actually. So any kind of group you belong to, this is a great time to push that group's goals ahead collectively, and just really, especially with this energy too, because you can combine the bigger vision of the sun Jupiter, acting for the future, seeing a big vision, and then bringing it into the changes you want to occur with the Saturn Uranus, and then being able to act on it with the Mars. So there's a lot of good energy this week too, despite the double Mercury retrograde stuff going on. The double retrograde stuff going on with Mercury and Venus, and even Mars still in its shadow. we have a lot of good energy clustered next weekend to bring some changes in. And once again, this is also another time where we can get favors from those in power or have stuff that we could use to help us. So a good time to ask for that. The Venus trine Mars is really sweet too. It's really good for socializing and creative energy. We feel really like ourselves and like the freedom to be ourselves, and we give that to other people too. So it really lessens the tension in relationships. We give each other the freedom to be who we are, and that, and we get great balance between ourselves and others, and we magnetize those who are similar to us. And this can be good for romance too. It can be good for a great balance with the opposite sex and having a romantic type of relationship. And it can be a very beneficial one. It can be a good one. Many times the romance that starts under a Venus trine Mars, there's already been an established relationship that's like a friendship already, or some kind of creative partnership, and then it starts to stimulate romance out of that. So and it can be a really good one because of that. There's a really great flow there. There's also like can stimulate our creative ideas, this one. With Venus trine Mars, and then output on them too, like have some production with those creative ideas, and also a possibility we could get some kind of financial favor or break, which once again goes back to the Sun Jupiter and the Saturn here, where we might be able to get some kind of favor or break or even wisdom that has value to us, that is wealth to us, from someone who has more experience than us. All right, well, that's what I got for this week. Not a lot, and this month, which does have some big changes in it. Next week, well, like I said, I'll go into more detail with Mercury going direct Monday and Venus going direct on Saturday. We also get our next full moon next week. It's at 24 degrees of Libra next week, and it's actually looks like it's going to be opposite Chiron. Also, indeed, it is going to be opposite Chiron and also involved with Jupiter. So that'll be nice. So I'll be talking about that next week. And just a little info now, Matt Lawton, and it's the Astrological Winds channel. Remember, I really would like you to pass the link along to somebody now. And if you do have a YouTube account, please become a follower. If you like what you see, don't forget to turn the notifications on. Also, I also have it available on podcasts. It's been on podcasts for many, many years, long before it was a YouTube channel, which has been about 6 years now, I think. And so, like, you can still get it on podcasts. Just look up Astrological Winds channel on your favorite podcast. If you can't find it there, look somewhere else. It's out there for sure. Also has its own Instagram page. Become a follower, and you'll see that come up, the link come up in your newsreel. And remember, it's available on my website, www.astrologicalwinds.com. That also lists all my professional services. I've been a professional astrologer for over 20 years, been giving readings for over 20 years. Would love to do yours. All kinds of readings, birth charts, predictive for the next year, fixed star, relationship, children's, elections worry. Go and look at the details. The prices are there too. I can work with you on the prices if you need to make payments, things like that. If you'd like to make a donation to the blog, my Venmo handle is at the symbol at Matthew, 2 T's, hyphen in the middle, Lawton, Lauten, or Cash App, $Matthew Lawton. And any amount that you give is not too small. Even if it's $5, that's great. Helps me get the blog out there. It does actually cost me a little bit to put the blog up. So, and also, if you're a student, I think I'm going to be starting a beginner's live class really soon. I'm waiting for the retrograde energy to end, and I'll check in. But if there's 4 of you out there, we can start doing the live class. Also, if you have a group that's looking for a workshop, a lecture, mini readings, class, get in touch with me. Remember, getting a reading from a professional astrologer is very different than getting a computer printout or having you or a friend look through a book and try to figure it out for yourself. You're worth the investment. We spend a lot of money on things that disappear on us in no time. Your chart stays with you your whole life. So you really want to know that stuff. All right, you guys, that's what I got for this week. I'll see y'all next week. This is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel.